Today I'd like to talk a little bit about how best to spend money when you're designing a new home. So, how do you spend money? Where do you spend money? To give you an example, I might take it back to a little story. I remember we were designing a house for a couple about 4 years ago. It was actually their second one-off house they'd built. The first house they built, they got I don't know who they got to design it. I don't know, was it an engineer or a draftsman or something? But it was I suppose it wasn't a great design. And they had a design, they got planning, and they were halfway through the build when the couple were walking through the house. And I suppose at that stage they began to realise there were kind of serious shortcomings with the design. So I remember as the project progressed, they were telling me all the story afterwards. They told me that they had the house built, they had it plastered, and I think to kind of compensate, they were putting in like a very fancy stairs into the house, was it a teak or mahogany stairs, and they were putting walnut doors, walnut skirting and architecture. Basically, they were kind of blowing money that they probably should have spent on other things at the start to get the design right. The design kind of wasn't really working for them, so they were kind of compensating with fancy stairs, fancy doors, fancy kitchen and everything else, but the actual design wasn't right. So they were engaging with us to build their second home and try and fix all the design issues that they had gotten wrong with the first one. So the question is, how would you better design a house? I suppose from our point of view, our design philosophy would always be get the space right. And that all starts with the floor plans of a house. So you start with the floor plans, get the space right, get the right space, primarily in your living space. Once you have a good quality living space, once you have enough space in your living space, then obviously to have a good quality living space, you need to have a good utility area. The utility area then will feed out into an outdoor utility space, which is a low profile yard area outside, where you might have your wheelie bins, your air to water unit, your clothesline, all that sort of thing. So you need to create adequate utility space, because otherwise all these items will either end up in your garden if it's external items, or items will end up in your living space, the clothes horses, the laundry, the washing powder and everything else. Once you have all this working, then you need to start looking at the path of the sun. So you want morning light in the kitchen, so that's coming from the east. You want southerly, which is your day and afternoon light primarily in the living space, and you want a good quality southwest or west light into your living space as well, and out onto your patio. So this is your evening setting sunlight. So it's the light that's kind of greeting you when you go home from work at like 5, half 5 on an average day. So you want to cap that. That's probably the most valuable light, because that's the only light you really see on a kind of Monday to Friday when you're working. So you want to create adequate space, you want to create adequate light into all your living space and everything else, and a good logical flow between across your living space. So this is all very important. Generally, people look for a second living room, a little bit of room for kind of peace and quiet from the living space, which is a bit open and busy, or it could be just a nice cozy room for the fire being lit on a stove or whatever on those cold winter evenings. So that, and of course downstairs you also need a downstairs loo and hallway and everything else. But all these rooms have to work in terms of light, flow and space. Upstairs then you get into bathrooms, bedrooms, en-suites and wardrobes and all that sort of thing. So they're a bit more straightforward upstairs. So you need to get all this right on a floor plan. So I mean, how we would do it, we would draw floor plans that we believe will work, and we get them costed by our QS, and we get kind of cost sounding. So as we're drawing, we're costing, making sure it all kind of works from a spatial point of view, a design point of view, and kind of from a costing point of view. And usually you have to play around with different options until you get the balance right. And you can't have very elaborate design where you spend way too much money on design and you don't have enough money left to finish a project. But consequently, on the other side of the fence, you don't want to have the building half built, money left over, and find out that the house won't actually work for you. I mean, that's an even worse situation, because then you've built something that isn't going to work for you. And like that couple of we came across a few years ago, they were actually moving house 3 or 4 years later, having left a house behind that wasn't working for them, trying to sell it on to someone else and going again, and all the time and money that was wasted doing that. So it's a balance. You don't want a very elaborate design, you don't want a very basic design. You want something in between, something that kind of offers value to you. So using a design and build model, designing and costing at the same time, finding out where the balance lies and offers value to you is a great way of doing it, and drives value for you and your family.